Hey friend, welcome back to the Vision Driven Health Podcast, your go-to show for learning how to create healthy habits that last in partnership with the God who created you. If you're someone who struggles with mid-morning or mid-afternoon crashes, if you feel dependent on that morning cup of coffee to get you going, and then the afternoon refill, if you struggle with getting good sleep, maybe you struggle to fall asleep or you wake up feeling anxious, if you've got stubborn weight that you just can't seem to lose, if you're concerned about experiencing the same chronic diseases of your parents, this episode is for you. In it, my guest does an incredible job of unpacking the impact of blood sugar on our health and lives. I am so positive that after listening to this episode, you will be educated, inspired, and ready to start experiencing breakthrough in your health struggles. Do you find yourself struggling to consistently implement healthy habits? Do you lack energy, confidence, and motivation because of stress, overwhelm, and shame for having not gotten it together by now? Friend, there is hope and grace for your health. Hey, I'm Robin Ryan McDonald, host of the Vision Driven Health Podcast. I'm a follower of Jesus, a wife, a mama of two, and a seminarian turned health coach. And I'm so excited that you're here. I found myself in my early 20s captive to cravings and convenience. 20 pounds heavier, super tired, with a face full of acne. I could not figure out how to maintain healthy habits until I discovered the power of aligning my choices with God's vision. 10 years and 2 kids later, by the grace of God, I'm still prioritizing my health and feeling amazing. If you are over quick fixes and are ready to feel good in your own skin, then grab a giant water bottle and let's dive on in. As a reminder, the Vision Driven Health Podcast is under the umbrella of Naval Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions. A great way to start your blood sugar balancing journey is to do so hand in hand with God. In the 5-day sugar fast devotional my team and I created, you'll have the opportunity to reboot your approach to eating and set a new trajectory in your relationship with food. The biggest difference will be you'll have learned how to partner with God intentionally in your health. The whole reason I do this podcast is because I believe the actual secret to lasting health is bringing God into it. Take advantage of this 40-page PDF filled with encouragement, recipes, and 5 days of devotionals to get you on the right track for free at visiondrivenhealth.com/sugarfast. Friends, today we have a returning guest on the show, a good friend of mine. We have Lindsay Young. She is a certified transformational nutrition coach and certified strength and conditioning specialist living in Boise, Idaho with her husband and 3 kids. She specializes in helping busy women develop a simple nutrition and lifestyle plan to create optimal health so that they have the energy to focus on the things that matter most. Lindsay, welcome back.
Thank you. I love your podcast. So it's really fun to be back on it again.
Thanks, friend. And we will link the previous episode that we had in the show notes. It's one that I reference in my episodes. It's one that I like, oh, you need to understand blood sugar. Like, here, listen to this episode with my friend Lindsay. So we'll for sure include that. But we are going to dive into the same topic, a little bit of a different course in our questions. But before we get to it, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself in general, but then more specifically what this process you have looks like?
Yeah. So like you mentioned before, professionally, I'm a transformational nutrition coach and a strength and conditioning specialist, but I'm also just like a real life mom trying to do her best
Amen.
to feel good and show up well. We live just outside of Boise, Idaho, and we homeschool our three kids. So life is full, like yours is, like I'm sure a lot of your listeners. And that's really why that drives a lot of the passion I have in helping other women simplify their approach to health, because I know that it has to be simple. And in my coaching practice, I work one-on-one, mostly with busy women who want to boost their energy, balance hormones, feel confident in their bodies without having to obsess over food, without chasing trends and extremes, without that constant guilt and overwhelm that can come with that process. And I really, really, really love to help women who feel stuck and exhausted, help to build and create those simple and sustainable habits so that they can have that confidence and that energy that they want, so that ultimately they feel fully present, right, for the people and the purposes that God has called them to. Because it's not just about the the healthy lifestyle itself, right? It's about what is that healthy lifestyle helping support us to do.
Yeah.
And that's really where my heart is whether that is motherhood or ministry or your career. That healthy lifestyle should be something, the work you put into that shouldn't be something that drains you, right? That
Yeah.
should be life-giving. And I know one of the things we're going to talk about today, of course, blood sugar and continuous glucose monitoring. And that's one of the tools that I use in some of the work that I do with clients, is offering CGMs as an option for people to better understand their blood sugar patterns so that they can see what type of simple tweaks they need to make that can actually lead to big results, right? Most of us want to have better energy and fewer cravings, and metabolic health is a really big issue that a lot of people are
Hmm.
struggling with, weight loss resistance. So I love helping utilize different tools to help people reach those goals.
This is why we're kindred spirits. All the stuff you said of just like how you want to, like what you're passionate about, how you want to support your clients, and even to friends, if you're not following Lindsay on Instagram and you just want to feel like inspired to like just go get it in life, follow her on Instagram. Was it Lindsay Lives Well, I think is your handle.
There's a
And
there's a dot. It's Lindsay.lives.well.
oh, perfect. And yeah, I just honestly I look forward to seeing your stories. It's like got my like red light therapy and Bible reading time in, workout in, like look at this meal hack. Like it just I'm like I feel like I'm constantly like looking and being inspired and like cheering you on, and then also like, oh, that's a good idea. Like I should try that. Like I think you're someone who's like really walking the walk, living out what you preach, and just even too, I know that you have a genuine love for Jesus, and I think that's a big part of what makes what you do so cool and so powerful. And like I said, just so aligned with my heart for what God has for all of us and our health too. So, amen to that. I'm so excited to talk with you again. I said before we started recording, I was like, I just want to catch up, but we have to record. So, speaking of which, you have been in the health space for a long time now. I know we've been friends in the health space together for a while, but I know your time predated mine. What makes you so passionate about focusing on blood sugar at this stage of your health coaching world?
Yeah, there's a few different reasons why blood sugar has become such a central focus for me.
Hmm.
First, on a personal level, my
Mm,
husband and I, out of our four parents, three of them have type 2 diabetes.
mm.
So while, I love them dearly, right?
Yeah,
None of them are modeling the kind of health and vitality that we hope to have in our 70s.
for sure.
So we've been given a picture of what we don't want our later years to look like. I
Right.
always joke we have our next door neighbors are in their early 90s and they're like in the best health.
I
Like
love that.
Mr. Ben is out there like power walking with his dog. He like mows his lawn twice a week. We're always like, we want to
Precious.
be like Mr. Ben. So we've had
Wow.
some examples of what we don't want our later years to look like and what we do
Hmm.
want them to look like. But also, I mean, I think having that long-term picture is helpful and important, but most of us are kind of driven by how we feel on a day-to-day basis. And like I'm sure a lot of your listeners, I'm a busy mom, right? We've
Yeah.
got a lot going on, and I want to make sure that the habits that I have are fueling me, that they're
Hmm.
not draining me. Like we all have to eat. We all eat multiple times a day. So why not eat in a way that gives me energy, that gives me clarity,
Right.
that gives me the capacity to pour into what matters most. And like I said before, I don't think that a healthy lifestyle should consume your life. I think
Hmm.
it should support it.
Hmm.
And it should free up your mind and your body so that you can fully show up for the work that God's called you to do.
Yeah.
And I have this very vivid memory when we were our church in California, like every week they would put names on the screen of people who were in need of prayer.
Huh.
And I loved praying for those people. And I
Yeah.
think that that's important. But I knew that some of those people were facing health struggles
Right.
that were preventable, right?
Right. Right.
I remember thinking, like, I don't want to be a name up on that screen. Like, how can I help like my peers, my friends, my clients avoid becoming a name up on that screen so
Hmm.
that we don't have to miss out on serving, on
Right.
being present, on making an impact for the
Yeah.
kingdom because we're sidelined by something that could have been prevented with just the right habits.
Right.
So that is really what drives me is that because when it comes to our health, blood sugar balance is so foundational.
Right.
Like it
Right.
touches everything. And so
Right.
when you think just from an efficiency standpoint, like what do we start with? We start with the one thing that impacts everything else.
Yeah.
Your hormones, fertility, digestion,
Yeah.
weight, skin, inflammation, mood, sleep, right? It's that one lever that when you pull it, it can positively shift the entire direction of your health.
Right.
And then I think it gives clarity to then like blood sugar balance can get you so far. And then it really helps bring into focus what are the other things that you need to work on with your
Right.
health. So I think that's what makes me so passionate is that I see that ripple effect.
Hmm.
And I just want people to know, like when you support your blood sugar, it's not just like, oh, my labs look better and that's cool, but it really does increase your capacity, right? To your energy, your purpose, the way that you're living and loving it, like it positively impacts every aspect of your life.
So good. And I relate so much to what you're saying about the names on the screen. I love that our church has a similar thing. They put out like a huge prayer list of like all the prayer requests that have come in, and most of them are for physical health. And like you're saying, it's there issues and things where I'm like, like, and I still got to do it. I've got a lot of things on my plate, but I want to be like, hey, like let's and the pastors have said that I can, so I gotta do it. But I was like, we got to create a day where it's like, it's all about just like health education, like the basics for people. And you know what? I'm pretty sure I thought about like, I'm going to fly my friend Lindsay out to talk about stuff. I'm serious. I had this
I would
thought.
so do that.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I don't know when, but to that point of like these precious Jesus loving people are being hindered in living out what they're called to do because they don't understand this big needle mover for health. And also, I think it's so Lindsay, like, of course, like, this is the most effective. Like, if you're going to pick one thing to focus on, I love that, like, you're like, let's find the thing that's going to, like, unlock the rest of the things. Let's be the most efficient. So, let's talk more about what makes monitoring blood sugar so efficient. What aspects of our health and body are impacted if we're having consistently elevated blood sugar? I think a lot of people don't realize what's at stake or what's kind of happening with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because honestly, it impacts almost every system in our
Right.
body. When blood sugar is consistently elevated, or when you're experiencing a lot of big fluctuations, right? There's kind of like two patterns that we could see that
Hmm.
we'd be concerned about.
Hmm.
A lot of highs and lows, or just consistently elevated blood sugar. It creates a ripple effect throughout your entire body. So we're talking about things like energy crashes, right? Or just inconsistent, unpredictable energy, which as a mom, like you got to be on.
We
Like
don't,
you,
we
you
can't be
got to
having that.
know. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you can't have like, oh, how am I going to feel today? Intense cravings, poor sleep, stubborn weight,
Mhm.
especially around the belly area, mood swings, anxiety, hormone imbalances, even brain fog, right? Like your ability to recall memories and have clarity of thinking. So it really is about, yes, your long-term susceptibility to different illnesses and diseases. But it's about how you feel in your body every day. And what I love to remind people is that our bodies are designed to thrive on stability, right?
Mm,
And blood sugar stability is one of the most powerful foundations that you can build. When your blood sugar is balanced, your body feels safe. And when your body feels safe, it's more willing to be in a mode of healing, right? To release excess weight, to regulate your hormones, to give you sustained and stable energy throughout the day. And when I see clients who are struggling with different health issues, and then we put a CGM on them, and I see like all of this blood sugar fluctuation, and I hear them telling me how they feel,
Right.
like, of course, like your body is not in this place of feeling like it's on your team, right? Those
Yeah.
signals of safety are not being sent. And I really see this pursuit of blood sugar balance not as restrictive, but it like as freedom, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when we eat meals that leave us feeling satisfied and energized, and like you've talked on your podcast, like taste really good,
Yeah.
we then have like the freedom to move throughout the day the way that we want to, right?
Yeah.
Without crashing, without feeling terrible, to really be able to show up the way that we want to.
That's so good. I'm glad that you mentioned that too, that I think people can be resistant, especially to something like a CGM or to like monitoring their blood sugar. And like, I think even to like, I haven't done a CGM yet, but every time I talk to you, I'm like, gosh, dang it, I gotta do it. But um, because I think probably even within my own self, I'm like, I don't want to find out that like one thing that I really enjoy is gonna like spikes it super high or whatever. But at the end of the day, like it's valuable information. It's such valuable feedback. And even too, if it does spike it, it's like, okay, cool, I'm not going to eat that as often. It's not the end of the world. And to the point of freedom, it's freeing to discover what unlocks that for you, but even freeing to discover new delicious foods and ways of preparing things, and even like the order that you eat foods and things like that, and how that impacts your blood sugar, I think is so, so helpful to know. So then people are hearing you and they're like, okay, like obviously that doesn't sound good. Oh yeah, and you said too that the stress state, I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's, I mean, if we're not in that rest state, that's just like inflammation galore. And I hadn't thought about how blood sugar puts us into that. That's so, so good. So someone's like, oh snap, I don't want to be in that place. How do I know? What are some clues that I'm experiencing elevated blood sugar, or that I'm suffering? Like what I'm experiencing is actually because of elevated blood sugar. How would we know?
Yeah. So one of the tricky things about elevated blood sugar is that it often like kind of flies under the radar for
Mm,
years before it shows up in your
yeah.
labs. And last time I was on the podcast, we talked about how metabolic health is viewed kind of as binary, right? Like a switch that's either on or off. Like you're either
Yes.
healthy or unhealthy. You're either like normal or diabetic. But rather than being so black and white, metabolic health really should be viewed on a spectrum, right? Because
Hmm.
there's a lot between like optimal health and then, oh, now you have type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And our bodies are always speaking, right? There are subtle and not so subtle signs that it gives
Yes.
us when our blood sugar isn't balanced. So, something to be looking out for is like, I feel like it's a red flag when people are telling me that like their energy crashes hard, whether that's
Hmm.
like mid morning, like, oh, I wake up and I'm great. And then at like 10:30, I need another coffee,
Yeah.
or that mid-afternoon crash, right? Like
Right.
going to pick up my kids up from school. Like that was me, like going to pick my kids up from school and like not being able to keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
That like warm California sun beating through the
That
windshield. And
210
I'm
though,
like,
I know
yeah,
the 210 at that time is a sleep inducer. I know
it
exactly
is.
what you're talking about.
Oh, so in general, like those constant cravings for sugar, caffeine, right? That constant need for a little pick me up.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, I just have a sweet tooth. I just need like a little Hershey kiss or just something sweet after every meal. And I'm like, that is not a good sign.
Right.
Um, or getting like hangry in between meals,
Mm,
right? Like you're like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Oh, I
I'm
need to eat
not.
now, or I'm yeah. That's your blood sugar talking, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel like your energy's a roller coaster. You need something sweet to get through the day. You're craving a lot of caffeine. Those are definitely some of the big clues.
Mm,
But not just cravings and energy, kind of other things to look out for. Stubborn weight gain, right?
hmm.
Like that can definitely be. Sometimes I'll pop a CGM on someone and they're like, I don't get it. Like calorically, I'm eating great. And then
Hmm.
we put a CGM on, I'm like, oh, okay, now I see what's going on.
Yeah.
Hormonal issues like PCOS, even acne, skin issues, irregular menstrual cycles, trouble sleeping, like if you wake up a lot between 2 and 3 a.m., brain fog, feeling wired but tired,
Mm,
anxiety, that sense of like always being on edge, like you don't
hmm.
ever really feel like grounded and calm.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a new CGM group start this week, and one of my clients sent me a photo yesterday, and she was like, I like last night was so hard. I was having all of these anxiety attacks, and we were watching her blood sugar in conjunction with the times of the night that she was waking up with
Oh,
like heart palpitations
wow.
and feeling anxious. And she just, I mean, she'd had a super busy day. They went right to life group. There wasn't really dinner. She had like chips and salsa and watermelon for dinner. And then like we just watched her blood sugar all night long, and she could like associate the times with when she
Wow.
was waking up with what felt like an anxiety attack to her. So, um, and yeah, so those are definitely some of the things to kind of look out for that we wouldn't necessarily associate with blood sugar. Because
Right.
I think sometimes, like, a lot of these symptoms kind of overlap with what our society deems as normal.
Right.
And, like, especially as a mom, right? Like, we're
Yes.
kind of expected to be tired and to
And be,
always have an iced coffee.
yep, 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 yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's what, what I think is cool is that when you stabilize your blood sugar, that kind of reveals that a lot of those things that you just thought were normal or were just kind of part of the deal of motherhood, um, like you don't, it's not all, like, I feel like the message we sometimes get is we just have to hustle harder, right? Like just wake
Right.
up earlier, just pound another cup of coffee. But when we eat and live in a way that honors our design, like God created us to have blood sugar
Right.
balance, everything gets easier.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that list, I can imagine so many people are just like, like they're just, I'm sure identifying so many of those things. It's a very unfortunately long list, but also not because again, I think that this is something for people to feel empowered by. If you were like felt at your rope's end with like, I don't know why I can't sleep. I don't know like all these things. And that story of your client just from the other day, I imagine for so many people, it's like, oh wow, like how cool that I can literally discover what's behind all these symptoms, which I imagine a lot of people listening can check off multiples of those for themselves and pin it back to this one thing that you can like get real-time data for, which is like so valuable. So we actually keep saying CGM, and I realize people might not actually know what we're talking about. It's obviously associated with blood sugar monitoring. What specifically is a CGM, and who do you think it's best suited for?
Yes. So a CGM is a continuous glucose monitor, and it's a pretty small device that tracks your blood sugar in real time. So
Hmm.
CGMs used to just be like you might see them on people who were diabetic, but
Right.
now like anyone can go. I mean, like my clients go to Stello.com and order them on their own. You can use your HSA or FSA.
Hmm.
They're super affordable. So instead of like back in the day, because I've been at this for a while, I would
Hmm.
have clients buy a finger prick to
Oh
prick their blood
gosh.
to see like, okay, what's your blood sugar doing after meals? So instead of having to prick your finger throughout the
Hmm.
day and just getting a snapshot of what your blood sugar is doing at that singular moment, which is what
Hmm.
happens when we go to our doctor and get blood work done, right? It's just that
Right.
one moment.
Right.
With a CGM, you pull up the app and you get to see what your blood sugar is doing all day long. So it's
Yeah.
more like a movie, right? And then you can line that up with the meals that you're eating, stress that you're experiencing, your sleep, your exercise, all of that, kind of see how those different things are impacting your blood sugar. And it's not, I know some people are hesitant because they're like, I don't want to become obsessive, right? I don't want to have this take over my life. But I think it's such a great tool for building awareness. And that's what I really try to drive home. Like, let's just, like, it's happening no matter whether we see it on an app or not. So let's just be more aware. And then when we see what's happening with our blood sugar, how it's responding to different things, then we feel more empowered to make the small tweaks that have a big impact because it's not as much of like overhauling your entire life as you might think it be, right? Like my husband, I put a CGM on him for the first time this week.
I saw that.
He's
Yeah.
such a good, I never like push things on him, you know? I'm like, whenever you want to do it. So he's like, now's the time I want to do it. So he has a stressful job. He coaches baseball, so he often gets home at night and eats pretty late. And so he had this like huge blood sugar spike the other night. And so last night after dinner, he was like, okay, we're going on a walk, right? Like he just knew like, okay, I just need like a 10-minute walk and that's going to help stabilize. Like just that one little tweak that he could make to his day to put him in a better place with his blood sugar. So sometimes it's just like swapping out the order in which you eat your food, right? Not even eating something different, but just eating it in a different order, or going for a walk after dinner, or adding some protein to your breakfast, right? Like I had a client come up to me at church and she was like showing me her CGM data and she was like, I had that oatmeal that Purely Elizabeth oatmeal that you love. And I said, did you have any protein with it? And she was like, no, I didn't have any protein with it. So as simple as that, right? Like adding protein to your oatmeal. So I kind of think that it's like, you know how sometimes we just get used to the environment that we're in, right? Like we walk into a room, we don't even realize it's dark until someone turns on the lights. That's what I feel like a CGM does. So who I think it's helpful for is for sure, like if you're experiencing like weight loss resistance and you feel like you're doing all the right things, a CGM can be really revealing. Of course, anyone that has energy crashes suffers with a lot of cravings, anxiety, mood swings, PCOS, if you've got irregular menstrual cycles, perimenopause symptoms. I've heard quite a few menopause specialists talk about how the best gift you can give yourself going into menopause is having balanced blood sugar. So I feel like if you're
Ah,
approaching that stage in your life, just understanding where your blood sugar is at and what kind of small tweaks you can make is a really good gift. And then, of course, like if you have a family history of diabetes and you want to get ahead of it before you yourself get that diagnosis. And then also just kind of like biohacky people that just want to understand their body on a little bit of a deeper level, right? Like we all have probably places that we could optimize a little bit. So, um,
so basically for everybody.
basically for everyone.
No, I think that's so great and so helpful. And I'm telling you, Lindsay, I'm gonna have to get one. I really am. And I'm curious too, you mentioned your husband did the walk the other day. Did you see that improve his blood sugar?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's cool because again, because you're seeing it like play out like a movie. So you can see, you eat and you see blood sugar starts to rise about 10 minutes after you start eating. And it usually reaches its peak at about 90 minutes. So you could see like it was starting to go up. And then we went on a walk and it was like bloop and it came back down. So
So
it's cool to see
cool.
how that lines up.
Nice. So then from a motivation standpoint, what kind of and motivation for people to I mean not shoot, I'm already motivated to get a CGM. Like you have sold this so well so far. I think yeah, it sounds so helpful. But what kinds of shifts, you've already mentioned a few, but have you noticed in like habit formation and consistency with clients, right? Because you're talking about it's good awareness. People start to realize they notice these shifts. Do you see that people find themselves more motivated and more consistent in making their healthy habit shifts because they're seeing that data firsthand from their CGM?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times people will come to me because they've had their yearly physical and they have, they're kind of in that danger zone of like being pre-diabetic or their
Right.
A1C is creeping up.
Hmm.
And we get news like that, or maybe we can like relate to certain symptoms and we're like, yeah, it would be nice to feel better. But what I love so much about CGMs is it is the best thing I've seen for truly driving behavior change. Like
Oh, I
we're
love that.
crazy creatures, like we can
Yeah.
have a lot of head knowledge, but it takes a lot. Like our habits are so deeply ingrained, but there's just something really powerful about, my husband sitting down to eat his bowl of tortilla chips and seeing his blood sugar go up. And I'm like, you missed out on this entire night of restorative sleep because your blood sugar was elevated all night long. So that, like having that image in his
Right.
brain, he's
Right.
like, oh, I'm changing right away. So that's what I love about CGMs is they really make the invisible visible. And once you've seen that, you kind of, and it's not in a way that is like you feel guilt or shame. It's just some accountability that is actually rooted in self-awareness because you've seen it
Yeah.
with your own eyes. And no one is telling you I didn't tell him he was bad for eating that bowl of tortilla chips, but he sees that and he's like, oh, I just like something inside of me wants to do a little bit better. And I think so often we do things that we know are not the best for our health, right? And we justify it. We're like, "Oh, I'll do better tomorrow," or "It's just a little treat," or "I've had such a long day." But when we can see that data and then we line that up with how we feel, it just connects the dots in a way that really make those consequences seem real. And I've had clients put CGMs on, like I don't, not everyone I work with wears a CGM. And I've had some clients that we've worked together for a long time, kind of chipping away and creating a different lifestyle for them and building healthy habits. And there are just some things they can't get dialed in. And then they put a CGM on, and that's kind of the breakthrough that they needed, right? Because they were, whatever that self talk was that was going on, they didn't clearly see the consequences of their choices until they could actually see it. So I think, again, it gives us this, like this opportunity to not strive for perfection, right? We don't want a flat line, but we're able to see like pretty quickly progress. And that's
Yeah.
so encouraging, right? And from simple things like adding in more protein, or, when clients come to me, they always expect that I'm going to give them like a very specific, like, this is your blood sugar balancing meal plan. You have to eat this way. And my approach is, well, let's see how the way that you're eating right now is already impacting your blood sugar. And rather than me giving you a meal plan of meals that, like, maybe you don't like to eat those foods, or it would require meal prep in a way that isn't part of your family's rhythm, we can just make tweaks to the way you're already eating
Yeah.
and living your life. And that seems so much more doable, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's, I feel like having that clarity instead of confusion and kind of wondering, like, I wonder what's going on with my health. I wonder if my symptoms are related to my blood sugar. That's where CGMs are really a game changer.
That's so, so good because I can even think whether it's within myself or clients where there's even just in other habits, there's things we know we like probably should do. And then we play the game of like justifying, but it probably like that probably doesn't make that big of an impact. Like that probably like it's not that big of a deal. Surely not just from this one bowl of chips. Like I think it's so easy to play that game and end up in a place too where we even still feel like we're doing I'm being so diligent. I'm so on top. It was only, XYZ or whatever. And like you're saying, like when you have it played out in real time on the CGM, it's just like, hey, look, like, this is what it is. And I can imagine how that does provide the real data. What did you say? You said it makes the invisible visible. And that's
Mhm.
such a great phrase. And I can see exactly how that would play out that way. And that honestly makes so much sense. I can see why that would be a massive motivator. So, I mean, granted, I'm super convinced on getting the CGM every time I talk to you. And I'm sure many others listening are. But let's just assume not everybody's going to do it. Time's gonna fade from listening to this episode. They're gonna feel less motivated about it. But let's just say they don't get one. What are the things we already know about balancing blood sugar from a dietary standpoint that people can just automatically start implementing?
Yeah, and that's such a great question. And I'm glad that you asked it, because while CGMs are an amazing tool, we don't need them, right, to start
Sure.
balancing our blood sugar.
Yeah.
We know so much from the research, and then we know now, like, there are some things, just having watched a lot of CGM data, like I can tell you what works and what doesn't work for most people. So the first would be prioritizing protein. And most of the people that come to me are under eating protein, especially at breakfast. And just having sufficient amounts of protein is the fastest way to stabilize your blood sugar,
Yeah.
to reduce cravings, to feel more energized throughout the day.
Yeah.
So I really recommend that you have at least 30 grams of protein per meal, and
Yep.
that you build your plate around your protein, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what you're thinking about first and prioritizing. And then you're adding in those healthy fats, those fiber-rich carbs, right? Things like leafy greens and roasted veggies and berries and sweet potatoes and avocados and olive oil and eggs and nuts and seeds. Because those foods are also going to slow down the digestion of
Hmm.
glucose
Hmm.
and give you sustained energy instead of that like spike and crash roller coaster. Both those healthy fats and fiber play unique roles in helping to create that entire picture of just blood sugar balance. So the protein, but then also healthy fats and fiber. And then one little fun trick that I like to share is to eat your food in the right order.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is starting with like protein and veggies before you have something sweet or something starchy or fruit. And just that, and that was one of the things that like I understood in theory, but then seeing it on a CGM, I'm like, that's wild that just that little shift can make a difference. And you can also, like, if you're paying attention, you will notice a difference in how you feel
Yeah.
from eating those foods in a different order. So if you're having steak and broccoli and a sweet potato, it's not even that you need to like eat the entire steak first and then your broccoli and then your sweet potato, but just getting a few bites in of like protein and veggies first is going to help to slow down the absorption of the glucose that comes from the carbs next. So, when you go out to a restaurant and they put the bread basket down first, like it's like the worst decision you could make, right? But you don't have to say no to the bread entirely. You could just say like, okay, I'm going to have a starter salad first and, with like a hard-boiled egg on it and get a little protein and veggies in first, or just save like have your entree and then save that bread for the end.
Yeah.
And then probably another really easy one is to just not skip meals. Because
Yeah.
again, kind of what we talked about, that balanced blood sugar comes from consistency. So it's not that we need to be eating like every 2 to 3 hours or grazing throughout the day, but having a meal every probably 4 to 6 hours is going
Hmm.
to keep your body from swinging into that survival mode, right? Where
Hmm.
you feel like you're pumping out cortisol, you start to have more cravings. When you do eat, you feel less in control, right? Because you've gone so long without eating.
Right.
So yeah, so really, I mean, balanced blood sugar, it's not about restriction. It's not about like, don't eat this, but it's really about nourishing your body in an intentional way, right? And creating rhythms that help us to feel satisfied and grounded and capable.
Yeah, I think those tips are so good. It's actually one of my I had an assistant coach who was working for me who was also like super, super focused on blood sugar, and she put together kind of a training for my clients and had like all these different kind of hacks. And so I think of like the food order, and I think of and I because I haven't had a CGM, I literally like I might like quote unquote accidentally like take a bite of like my potato first. I'm like, I wonder like how big of an impact that just had, and then I'll like go back to like the veggies and the protein, and then like come back to it later. But I think about how that all plays out. And again, I'm just continuing to convince myself that I'm going to get a CGM. But I think those are such great tips, and they're easy to do. And I really do love that you've already emphasized it's not about tossing out everything you've known and do for your food. It's about discovering where you can make those simple adjustments. And like, how easy is it to just shift the order of what you're eating your food? And if that, to know that that has real implications of helping to reduce that blood sugar spike. That's amazing. And it's funny too, when I go to the steakhouses or whatever, like when we're eating out with my in-laws when we visit them and whatnot, and they bring out the rolls and everybody's going for them, and I'm just like, stay strong, Robin. I'm just like waiting until I get my steak and veggies because I plan to still enjoy one. I don't I might like in my mind, it's like it's a simple thing that I can do because I know I'm eating a more indulgent meal to begin with. Like I can make that simple shift and know that I'm gonna like improve my blood sugar. So yeah, I love these hacks. They're so, so great. So then, Lindsay, if you were to boil down simple steps for balancing blood sugar into like three key concepts or habits, what would those be?
Yes. Okay. So simplicity is really powerful, right? Because if it's not
Yes.
simple, we're not going to do it. So if I had to boil it down to three, I would say first, make sure that you're starting your day with a blood sugar balancing breakfast because breakfast really sets the tone for your entire day. It
Yeah.
is so much harder to get back on track if you start the day with a big blood sugar spike and crash than it is to just like start the day with like you can, and I can like picture this because I've seen it on CGMs, like manipulate like the place in the day where you're going to have your indulgences. And if you put them later and you've
Oh.
started out stable, your recovery is so much better. Like if you
Uh-huh.
start the day with a donut, like it's hard to get back on track. But if you prioritize protein and healthy fat and fiber with that first meal, right? Think something like eggs and Canadian bacon with sauteed veggies and a sweet potato, right? Or smoothie with protein powder and nut butter and chia seeds. If you start the day with that balanced plate, it's easier to maintain balance all day long.
Yeah.
And I think that I think it's important that we take the time. like sometimes people are so resistant to this, but like actually take the time to calculate out 3 breakfasts that you love that contain at least 30 grams of protein, right?
Yeah.
So that you know you can visualize, right? All you have to do
Yeah.
is like count that out one time and then you've got those in your back pocket, right? Like 2 eggs is not enough protein, right? Like some
Right.
women, they're like, I
Right.
had 2 eggs and some
Yeah.
veggies. I'm like, that is not enough protein.
Right. Yeah. Or
So
food in
if
general.
yes, so if at least like if you have at least 30 grams of protein and you've got 7 grams of fiber, it's going to lead to just all the rest of your food making decisions throughout the rest of the day are so much easier.
Yeah.
Um, and then second, I would say just in general to build your meals around protein because protein is the anchor. It is going to slow
Mm-hmm.
down. Like it's the biggest of the 3 macronutrients. It's the one that's impacting your blood sugar the most. So it really does slow down how quickly glucose hits your bloodstream, and it helps us to stay full and focused and fueled. So again, like I like to see that minimum number be 30 grams in a meal.
Yeah.
And if you're not hitting that, when you start to, you're going to notice a difference immediately, right? You're going to feel more stable and calm. You're going to have fewer cravings. You're going to have better energy. And I think that carbs and fat are like pretty easy to come by, right? But the
Yeah.
protein is like what takes more intention.
It
So
does.
if you plan your meals around protein, that it's like you've done the hardest thing first.
Yeah.
And then I would say 3 would be to use movement as a tool.
Yeah.
And this doesn't mean that you have to crush like a super intense workout every day, but just to move your body regularly,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially after meals. Just a 10-minute walk. One of my like blood sugar mentors, she calls it a dog walk. Like
Uh-huh.
it like a dog sniffing walk, right? Like it's not like a power walk. Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
cruise around your neighborhood for 10 minutes at the speed of which if your dog was stopping to smell. And that really can significantly blunt a blood sugar spike, right? And it's free, it's effective, it's simple. But more intense exercise, yes, has a place too, right? Like strength training is going to deplete glucose that's stored in your muscles. It helps give you more space for that. But just like I cannot overemphasize how powerful it is to just do a 10-minute walk. And this is one of those things that like I did not fully understand until I saw it on CGMs. Like I'd learned it in my education and training and I was like, okay, that's great. But just a little consistent movement throughout the day really does help to keep blood sugar stable. So I would say that those 3, like if you were to do nothing else but to start your day like with a good, stable, balanced breakfast, center your meals around protein and just get like consistently move throughout the day. Those 3 things are pretty transformational.
Those are such good tips. I think the post meal walk is such a hack. Like, and it's honestly, I think in the summertime, which is when we're recording this and when this will even be released as well, you've got the extra daylight. Like, it's so pleasant to like, it's starting to cool down, the sun's going down. Like, maybe it's not depending on how early you have dinner, but like just to get out for that walk is so nice. We've been trying to do that as a family, and it's almost like and even too from a circadian rhythm, like that your eyes are seeing like the sun going down, like it just helps shift everything into this wind down to put the kids down. It's such a fantastic habit and routine to get into, and to find out that, it has such a positive effect on your blood sugar is amazing. So, Lindsay, thank you so much. This has been incredible. I can already tell this is going to be another episode that I like, you got to listen to this episode. Oh, you're feeling this? Listen to this episode. So, for someone who's hearing what you say and they're just like, oh my gosh, Lindsay is amazing, which I totally agree, and they want to find out how they can work with you, how they can experience this incredible support that you give your clients, where can they go? What other resources can they get from you?
Yeah, so my website is lindsayliveswell.com, and that's Lindsay with an AY. I've got some free blood sugar balancing meal plans on my website. I have a free guide that I've created called 7 Daily Hacks to Balance Your Blood Sugar. So I've got lots of free resources, and then I've got information there on my programs as well. Kind of the initial CGM program that I run is 4 weeks long. I have found that that's a really great kind of initial commitment to put a CGM on. Like, I don't think everyone needs to wear a CGM, 12 months out of the year. But
Yeah.
30 days, and then you have a couple habits that you focus on, come back in 3 to 6 months, put one on again. But anyway, so details of my programs are on my website. And then I spend the most time on Instagram. That's my favorite place to like interact with people. So, and there I'm lindsay.lives.well.
Amazing. Well, I'll include the links to all of those, to your website, to the daily hacks, the CGM course, and we'll even put your Instagram handle in there so people don't have to look farther than this episode to get a hold of you. But thank you so much, Lindsay. This is so good. Really appreciate your wisdom and insight. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Vision Driven Health podcast today. I hope this episode inspired you, supported you, and blessed you in some way. If it did, it would mean the world if you would leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcast and share this episode on your social media. The more reviews and shares this gets, the more people can be blessed and encouraged in creating a Jesus-centered, sustainable, healthy lifestyle. If you want to hang with me and other Jesus-loving ladies who are creating healthy habits that last, be sure to join my free Facebook group, the Made Well Mastermind. Use the link in the show notes to join. Be blessed with hope, joy, and health. I'll see you next week. Again, the Vision Driven Health podcast is under the umbrella of Made Well Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions.